actually have all my abilities. So instead of the 3D overworld map that was in all the previous Wild Arms, this one is very linear because you can only move to certain locations. While you're on the world map, if you hold down circle, it will move the cursor at twice the speed. So that's how I'm moving the cursor really quickly. But it does make it a little difficult to control.
So something that might amuse you a little bit here, Tide.
Yeah.
The donation war on Phantom Line started with somebody added $5 for adding the P that should have been there in the first place for Phantom Line. Yeah. And the other people stepped up and donated $50 for Phantom Line.
Okay. Yeah.
So they don't want you to change a thing.
Must keep the glorious localization.
For it. That's the best I can do. Get ready.
So those spheres will drop items that he's going to need to solve the puzzles in these areas. The problem with these items is when you have them in hand, you can't jump and you can't slide with them. So that's part of the adding to the platform, because you got to figure out how to solve the puzzles without being able to jump or slide and carry the items where they need to go. Like hitting a lamp with a sword.
Ignore the logic behind why he can't just shoot it with his gun. I use this rapid tap technique because you can't do slides or you can't jump. So it is actually the safest way moving with an item to avoid encounters. And I really don't want encounters to proc because they're really bad news. Every single time a random encounter does trigger, it's at least a 17-second loss, and depending on how the turn order goes, I lose 4 seconds for every additional action the enemy takes. Which, by the way, sometimes I don't even get to move. When I was doing my practice run, I got into a random encounter that instantly wiped me before I could do anything. So I have every basic motivation to avoid getting into an encounter while I'm playing this game.
Not to mention there's that chance that you can start out in the center square.
Yeah.
With all 4 of your party members.
Well, okay, that wipe in particular had everybody on top of water attacks, and then they got hit by a fire attack, so everybody took like 2,000 damage.
Well,
and
not to mention you lose the Gela too. You have a
yeah,
chance
and then
to lose
when you
the
run,
Gela.
you have a chance to lose money if not everybody's weak to the same hack. So random encounters are generally bad news.
Get ready.
And some of these accelerator money grabs, you'll notice little hourglasses that refresh your accelerator bar, so you can keep going through the puzzle and try to change the coins as high as possible.
If you see me actually fight a random encounter, I'll explain why I'm doing it. But generally speaking, you're going to see me run through random encounters when I get them.
So you notice for this puzzle there that he needed accelerator because those steps would have quickly disappeared. But with it, they slowly disappear and give you time to get through the puzzle. But there are going to be puzzles coming up later where there's actual hazards, things like fire and such. And if you actually get hit by them, you lose your accelerator bar. So the game kind of forces you to dodge them unless you can damage boost your way through some of it.
So that chest contains 2 lucky cards. Lucky cards increase the experience multiplier by 1, so you double your experience gain. The only reason why I'm getting them, especially in the marathon type run, is because I can't guarantee everybody's going to be alive at the end of every battle. So since I'm not fighting random encounters, I need to use basically the cards to kind of be experience padding, because I need characters at certain levels for certain fights.
Yeah, Yuli is the big one early on.
Yeah.
And since Yuli likes to die a lot, you never know what level she's going to be when you get to the point where you need her to be 9th level.
The lowest I've had her be when I finished the game was like 39, which is 11 levels lower than what you normally finish in a casual one.
Yeah,
just to give you an idea of how many times she died.
The random encounters give you almost no experience in this game. Yeah, you don't see Phantom Line there at the top?
Also adjusts this bar at the very top. So that basically adjusts the HP to MP ratio every character has. And since we're not fighting random encounters, there's no incentive to increase magic, so we just cap out HP. And the amount of HP that you can adjust basically depends on how many basically additional CG points you have. You need CG points to kind of buy abilities, so most of the time you won't see too much of an additional increase in HP, but they do become important because it'll let me survive on survival rolls, basically.
So this is the dancing terrace. There's a handful of enemies you'll notice just stand in the center and spin in circles, like they're confused. And Raquel is extremely overpowered.
Yes, but you don't see that from this fight. We'll explain why later on.
Especially later on, where pretty much the entire strategy involves her attacking, and killing you.
And you might have noticed this boss does nothing but poison you. So this is a no-risk boss, which is good because the next several are plenty enough that surviving them is going to be quite a hazard.
And apparently that turtle had explosives on him because he blew up.
Yeah, don't ask. It's a Wild Arms game is the best explanation. So when you basically trigger certain puzzles in certain areas, the game will tell you that a breakpoint is active, which lets you turn it off. And the way breakpoints work is when you turn them off, basically all the random encounters in the area gets turned off, so I no longer have to worry about Accelerator. And I can just slide my way through. But most of them are basically out of the way, so I'm only really going to activate like one breakpoint throughout the entire game, which saves about 10 seconds. Any additional breakpoints I do activate, that's going to be because it's in the course of running the game, and it's not me going out of the way to trigger them.
Kick! Go! Okay!
Pretty rainbow.
Oh god.
Okay!
Oh, I got stuck on the ground. If you use L1, it makes Jude examine his surroundings, and it lets him lock onto items of interest. So when you have to throw certain items, sometimes it's better to use the L1 to lock onto whatever you want to throw an item at, because the throwing mechanics in this game are very awkward. So I usually just let the computer handle it. Because manually aiming, throwing things is just usually much more of a hassle than it actually should be.
And that's what those black circles with the exclamation mark are.
Right.
That's flurry time.
So this upcoming boss, he has a couple of tricks. The first trick he has is an ability called Blocker, and it does pretty much what it sounds like. So it stops physical attacks when it triggers, and it procs at about a 50% rate. His other ability is he can counter, and I haven't figured out the exact counter rate, but my estimate is about a 33% chance. I basically never want him to trigger Blocker because, well, you'll see if one of the counter attacks go off and he decides to use Blocker. So now Tony, by the way, is acting commander on probation.
But he's got himself a shiny new machine.
Let's
Yes, in the course of just a few minutes, he's already been put on probation. Now, bosses in this game are extremely fast. So, pretty much every boss is required that Arno has to slow down the hex that they're in, or you're just going to get crushed extremely fast. Because they're overpowered and extremely fast. But once you debuff them, a lot of them become trivial.
Big game.
You damn little kids!
So that was the best movement position Tony could have moved to. He can move to 3 positions. If he moves to the left, it's the worst position. Moving to the right is the best position. Center is neutral. So he cooperated, which is good.
And Raquel pretty much killed him by herself.
Yes. You'll notice that Raquel has an ability called Intrude. What Intrude does is it gives Raquel an additional turn on top of the turn that she currently has. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy, it's the equivalent of Quick, except this is a lot more broken than Quick because you can stack it up to 5 times. And this is on the character that has the most damage. So you can imagine the horrible things you can do to bosses. The only thing you need to be aware of for Intrude is that in order to use Intrude, it runs on a separate bar that's not magic. The game calls it Force Points, which increases every single time something happens in battle. Force Points increase basically 4 FP for most actions, 2 FP for guarding. Evading is plus 12 and kills I think are plus 10. And I think countering is also like plus 10. Basically the rates are different for every action. And having FP is very important because if you have more FP, you can use more force abilities and you'll see that they're quite powerful. Intrude obviously is the one that everybody who has played this game is aware of.
So, Tide, when
Yep.
do you usually cut off the other spell names? Because some of these are actually getting pretty close on the donations.
I won't be using Joint Struggle until a little bit while in. Gather, I won't be using until basically around the 2-hour mark. And which other spells did I say?
Hyper.
Hyper? Hyper is not going to be used until, like, basically until very late in the game.
Okay.
So,
So people still have a little bit to donate towards those?
yeah, they have lots of time. It's a rolling donation, so,
Oh, it is?
yeah. Because I can rename the spells anytime.
Okay.
And you'll notice I have barely any money left. So, basically what I did was just buy healing supplies and then weapons and armor.
Nice landing.
I could do it without healing supplies, but I don't trust my chances. Because you'll see soon enough. It's not exactly a very fun prospect when you're taking like 1300 damage and you only have about 2000 health. So early on, there's some experience manipulation. I basically make it so that Arno has enough to pick up slowdown as soon as possible. And I make Yuli learn Sanctify because for this next boss that we're going to fight, he's considered an undead enemy. And Sanctify only works on undead enemies, but when it does, it gives Yuli pretty decent damage. So it lets her do something and then sit around and look pretty.
Or laying on the ground dead.
Or lay on the ground dead. Which is usually what happens most of the time. Despite my best efforts at making sure that she doesn't die.
Accelerate! Accelerate!
just a tutorial about stairs. You don't really need to know a lot about stairs. You can quick climb stairs if you hold down the X button.
Get ready.
That's pretty much about the extent of it. And that's an explanation about duplicators, which are basically magic keys. Fun fact about duplicators in this game, there's only one door in the entire game that you need to use a duplicator on. Whereas in Wild Arms 3, I think you actually need to use duplicators on a fair number of doors if you want the items behind them.
Mostly they're just used for blue chests that you see scattered around.
Yep.
There's another type of chest, a red one, but you can't get them until the end of the game. There's only a handful of them.
Red chests are basically like New Game Plus chests. So they contain extra money most of the time. Oh, good. This is another boss where the strategy varies depending on what text he decides to move into. Neutral position. He counters with slowdown, by the way. Also, ow.
He chose a position to go right
I
after you.
think this speed suits you better.
I want to help everyone. I can do it.
Pardon? No, it will happen, trust me. Like, it doesn't look like it's happening right now, but it will happen despite my best efforts.
So pierce the darkness.
Remember that Mystic Quest is, pretty
Remember
guaranteed
when
that you're gonna
I
die?
was doing that practice run and I got into that random battle and all of a sudden I just died? Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, the odds of Yuli surviving the entire
Let's do this
game
smartly.
without dying is
Try using your brain
almost
alone.
impossible.
Yeah, Ty was practicing earlier, and he got into a random encounter
Let's see now.
where all of his party started in the same tile, and he died before he got a turn. So it's definitely gonna happen. I'm just giving him crap.
So this is the main reason why you would turn up voices. You notice that I killed him like 5 seconds ahead of time, but he goes into his death speech and he's all like, "Free us from our suffering." So I'm actually going to do that right now before I forget. Just set everybody else's voices to high. So that was good because Yuli lived. Typically on a really good day, I can get Yuli to live most of the time. And she will reach level 9 before Incubator, which is very important. But chances are that won't happen. Because it requires her to live through all the fights, and a couple of them you need to use lucky cards on. So we've talked about recurring bosses. One of them was Tony. The next recurring boss we're going to see is coming up right now, pretty much. Good old Journey.
Get ready.
Most bosses in this game also have some sort of a gimmick. For Jeremy, every single time you face him, he increases in strength by
Get ready.
basically improving his gimmick, which is every single time he attacks, he gets the chance to perform a second action. Sorry, he gets it's a 100% chance when he performs second action. But every single time you face him, he increases that ability. So the third time you face him, he will triple act instead of just double acting.
Jump.
Hooray, got that in one shot. So the first time you fight him, he's not going to have this ability, but he's still threatening none the least because if I recall correctly, he's about 388% average speed. And the fastest character in this game is Jude, who has 139% average. So Jeremy is pretty much going to triple turn everybody right off the bat.
What's more?
You? action segments are easy.
Accelerator!
Hourglass. Exit.
Full speed!
Oh god. Almost missed that. I'll have to level.
That statue, you had to have all three of them blow up it next to it in order for it to just get destroyed.
Yeah, and so we might have to go around.
Go! Go! Charge!
So the best result for this fight is if he decides to spread his damage, which it doesn't look like he's gonna do, so okay. Ow.
I'll attack head on!
Oh yeah, by the way, Jeremy counters, 40% chance. He's also accurate.
Let's do this smartly. Time to tangle you up.
You have to be strong! Please, cheer up! This is more than enough to win with. My turn! I'm not good at holding back. Allow me.
So I healed there because I'm afraid that he's gonna counter. If Raquel dies in this fight, it goes downhill really quickly.
How predictable.
So having her alive is of utmost importance. I did. Ow.
My turn. I want to help.
Hard myself.
I'll support with items. I'm still okay.
Set up formula.
My turn.
GG.
My flashing blade shall pierce the darkness.
That fight went pretty good.
That went really well, because he decides to spread his damage between Jude and Raquel. If he focus fires on one, it's bad. If Raquel dies, it's really bad. Rhino reaches level 9. So he now has Jump and Act up his sleeve. Unlike the other two bosses, Jeremy's position usually doesn't matter because he does have the ability to hit at long range. But basically, if he moves to the center, that's the riskiest position because then he has a really good chance of killing off Yuli. If he starts anywhere else, he can't attack diagonally, so he won't be able to target Yuli. So if you keep the other two relatively healthy, he'll be preoccupied. And you don't have to worry about unnecessary deaths, which is good. So, I think we can run some animations if any of them have come in.
Of the Great Wall of China.
Yep.
Get ready.
You notice this area in particular basically is all platform, so we can't use slides for this.
Full speed.
This chest contains a gunslaughter sign, which increases the crit rate on the equipped character.
For it. Accelerator. Accelerate. Accelerate. Once more. Accelerate.
one area in specific is very copy and paste.
Yes, it's a very boring landscape.
Once more! Accelerate! Get
Wow,
ready!
missing a lot of jumps. Should be able to clear two every single time I do it.
And that blue chest is an example of a duplicator chest.
Yes, that one in particular contains an ambrosia,
Get ready!
which heals all HP, heals all MP, and heals all status. MP healing in this game is basically very rare, so there's a good reason why that chest is a duplicated chest. So this is a merchant. You see merchants along the way, and basically they just sell consumable items most of the time. I restocked on fuel berries because there's still four bosses that I have to go through.
Well, there is the one merchant that's a cat in the box.
Yeah, there's also the cat in the box merchants.
Or the cat jack in a box. Oh, I guess you could say it.
Accelerate!
It's been a little while, so I'm just going to remind you that you were watching Crystals for Life 2014. If you're watching on Twitch TV, you can go to crystalsforlife.ca to find more information about the marathon and the charity that we are benefiting, JDRF. JDRF is a global organization to focus on type 1 diabetes research with more than 100 locations worldwide. JDRF is also the largest charitable supporter of type 1 diabetes research worldwide, having provided $1.6 billion for research since their founding in 1970. We are happy to be supporting them, and all of your donations do go to that charity when you donate.
Oh yeah, the game sometimes does that for some reason. If you click on a specific location you want to go, and it thinks it's moving too quickly, it's going to reset its position. And time for the hardest boss in the game. Can I get the name actually for Joint Struggle?
Get ready!
Let me just do a quick refresh for you.
Yep.
Quick.
Go ahead.
Joint Struggle is Wild Bunch, two
Wild
words.
Bunch. Okay. Oh, probably, yeah, that's why.
Phantom Line and Slowdown haven't changed.
Okay.
Joint Struggle or Wild Bunch. It's like Kipshida for Raquel is one of the abilities that he's going to use an awful lot. Basically, it does damage based on how many people are in the hex with June. So there's a lot of times where he's just going to be gathering everyone up into one hex and pretty much beating away at the boss.
It's a pretty significant damage boost compared to Phantom Line. Right now, it deals about 4,000 damage, I think. And Phantom Line only deals about 1,500.
It's a good strategy for this part of the game until you can pretty much just one-star, two-shot everything with Raquel.
The only downside to using Joint Struggle is that it's a very risky maneuver, because remember that every single attack in this game focuses on a hex and not a character. So by putting everybody into the same hex, I'm basically